So this is a crazy story. The Right to Contraception Act. We've been seeing all these attacks on healthcare, specifically birth control, and of course, trans healthcare. But today we're talking specifically about access to abortion and access to the day after pill, in the morning after pill, and birth control and everything. And so on the same day that I learned about the Right to Contraception Act that they were trying to pass, it's been slapped down, apparently. I was on Twitter earlier going, oh, what are we going to talk about on today's show? And, you got Elizabeth Warren here saying, I don't want to hear from Republicans that they support contraception when they won't make it the law of the land. This is from yesterday. Tomorrow, every senator will have to say where they stand. I'm voting for the Right to Contraception Act. It's time we codify contraception into law. And I think that this bill is referring to, oral birth control, the IUD, the little arm implant thing that you can get. And I think that the morning after pill is also considered a form of contraception. And, we complained, I complained about how they had 50 years to take Roe v. Wade, which was a court case, and codify abortion rights into law. There were numerous opportunities where Democrats held the majority in either one or both houses of Congress, and then the president was also a Democrat. They could have done this. Absolutely, they could have done that, right? And they didn't. So you could say, oh, it's respectable at least that the Democrats are now in this era as we're leading into Project 2025, and there's all these attacks on various human rights and everything. Cool, y'all are at least trying to do something to vote for the right to contraception. I haven't read the bill. I don't know what all was in it. And it doesn't even matter because there are enough Republicans to prevent this from going in. The Right to Contraception Act was blocked in the Senate. Planned Parenthood Action says, let the record show that the opposition would rather take away your right to birth control like IUDs, emergency contraception, or the pill, rather than expand it. Motion to invoke cloture on the motion to proceed to the consideration. So basically they were voting whether to proceed with this bill. And 39 Republicans blocked this bill from going through. The quote, Right to Contraception bill. If you ask me, the bill needs a more misleading and vague name. Right. Maybe that's one of the problems that the Democrats have is that they're more open with what their explicit plans are. And, it's just easier. Republicans do this thing where they tuck stuff into other bills. They'll have a military funding bill and they'll sneak in there something about, denying access to trans healthcare. Maybe in that particular instance, it would specifically be, oh, are we going to cover trans service members or veterans, specifically trans-related healthcare? Yeah, I know. Trying to shame Republicans this way is a very Elizabeth Warren thing to do. I'm not saying I respect her. Honestly, I truly believe that her refusal to back out of the presidential situation is why we didn't have an opportunity for a Bernie Sanders candidacy. I was among the people calling her a snake. I think she's a snake. I think she's terrible. I think most Democrats are terrible, to be completely honest. But if they had passed this, then it would have been, at least they're doing something. At least then someone could make the argument that voting for them is doing something. But if I'm being completely honest, I think that they knew that this wasn't going to pass. They did this for the performative aspect of it. They were like, oh, we're going to make ourselves look good. We're going to make the Democratic Party look good. And we're going to make the Republicans look bad. Did they think that there was any chance that this was going to pass? Or is it more so that they can start attacking those 38, 39 Senate Republicans? Jessica Valenti says, Republicans claim they don't support the Right to Contraception Act because there's, quote, no threat to birth control and Democrats are, quote, fear-mongering. However, Senator Joni Ernst said she introduced her own birth control bill in order to stop any protection of emergency contraception. When asked how her effort is any different from what the Democrats want, Ernst said it does not include Plan B, which many folks on the right would consider abortive services. Big distinction. We want to prevent a pregnancy, not end a pregnancy. Baby, sweetheart. Either she's stupid or she's deliberately lying here, but the morning after pill, Plan B, doesn't end a pregnancy. It prevents a pregnancy. Like literally, that's the point of it, is you take it and it's not even possible for you to be pregnant, you know? Like you have sex the night before and then the morning after you take the Plan B, and usually the main thing that it does is it like stops you from ovulating. That's the main thing that it does. Intended to prevent pregnancy. Yeah, Sam in the chat points out, beware if you're taking the morning after pill, if you weigh over 180 pounds, it is less effective. There are certain pills that are like a slightly higher dose, or maybe you could take a double dose. Talk to your doctor about it though. You can't necessarily, if you weigh more than 180 pounds, you can't necessarily just go get it over the counter and assume that that's going to be fine. You know, you want to talk to it. You like talk to somebody about it. Yeah, it's an election show. That's my humble opinion, is that this is an election show. They're like, there was no chance that this was going to pass in the first place. Hey, you should like, comment, and subscribe. And you can hit up the Patreon or maybe buy one of these hoodies that I'm wearing because it's good merch. Do it. Do it for the cat. Do it. From Fox News, the Fox host says, you've just voted against a woman's right to contraception. Trump VP contender Tim Scott says, yes, I did. I hate this guy's face. Fox host asks why. And Scott says, oh, well, it's a shame that the Democrats are trying to politicize this issue. I'm sorry, but like literally everything is political. And especially like women's rights or female rights, like whatever, however you want to phrase it. Like obviously trans men, like I don't want to leave trans men out of the conversation. I'm non-binary. I consider myself broadly to be transmasculine because of the direction that my transition has taken. I still need birth control. At this time, I'm not willing to have my organs permanently removed. You know, like I'm able to get pregnant and I need access to these things. So if I ever say for shorthand, like women's rights, understand that I am not doing that in order to box out trans men from the conversation. It's like politically, like I don't identify as a woman for my gender, right? But politically, I am politicized as a woman. My body is politicized like a woman's body is. So that's all I mean to convey if I'm talking about like women's access. Like denying people the ability to control their fertility. If you are making vasectomies illegal, or if you're making abortion illegal, or if you're blocking research into male birth control, or if you're trying to prevent access to contraception, including Plan B, you know, that's like, it is a political issue. Y'all have been politicizing this for years. Republicans and Democrats have been using this whole women's rights thing as a thing to campaign on. Or I mean, for the Republicans, it's not so much like this women's rights thing. It's more like the rights of the fetus or whatever. Like, they're murdering babies, you know, like just like invoking your emotional, like showing you a picture of a baby and then saying, don't I have the right to, what about my choice? Like, whatever. So, yeah. And for the fact that the Republicans keep campaigning on this, like, it's a question that gets asked at the Republican Democratic Convention, or sorry, the Republican National Convention, and the Democratic National Convention, every time there's one of these debates. It's part of the party platform. And you're accusing Democrats of trying to politicize this issue? It's both of you. It's both of you. You're both using this as a way to make money and consolidate power. Yeah, I don't really disagree, Mama. We watched that TikTok video a while ago where a guy proposed, you know, do we think, like, if you start to look at the Democrats' actions through the lens of they are trying to lose on purpose, a lot of their actions make a lot more sense. It truly does. It makes way more sense. Let me see what else we have on here. See, this is what I mean when I say this is a campaign thing. Hillary Clinton says, Republicans say that they're not coming after contraception rights. Their actions say the opposite. Today, nearly every Senate Republican got on the record in a vote on the Right to Contraception Act. They won't protect reproductive freedom. Democrats will. This is an advertisement. This is an advertisement for the Democratic Party. They knew that this was not going to pass. This is just an advertisement. I feel like if I were to continue covering, like I'm scrolling through Twitter right now, I'm just like, yeah, scrolling, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, look at that. It's another Democrat saying, well, these Republicans are terrible. Oh, I want my message to be clear. A woman has a right to contraception. This is just an opportunity for a bunch of campaign ads. That's all this is. It's a bunch of campaign ads. Scrolling through Twitter causes at least 1d4 psychic damage. It does. There's a reason why I don't do this very much anymore. You know, like, I know if you're seeing this in the future, this is a recorded segment, but here on the live show in the present or the past, as it were, you know, on my show, we spend like a solid 2 hours of the 4-hour show just talking about nonsense and letting the topics flow and doing whatever, because it's so draining in this situation. Like, I don't know if it's right or wrong for me to have done this, but I have like mentally checked out in a lot of ways where I'm like, I'll keep talking about it. I'll keep covering the topics. You know, that's what my channel is built on, is diving into the trans issues. You know, honestly, the videos like this one where I talk about abortion or contraception, like this video is going to do crap compared to my other videos. And that's really unfortunate because I'm trying to talk about issues that matter through the election. But like, I'm mentally checked out in a lot of ways. You know, I'm going to vote, and I think that you should vote. I am not going to vote for Biden because I live in Kansas and my vote does not matter when it comes to the president. I'm going to vote for a Democrat across the entire rest of the ballot, but I'm not going to vote for Biden because I'm disgusted by the fact that he keeps sending Israel money, and I have seen so many children over the course of the last 9 months, however long it's been since October. Like, way too many cursed images that I cannot get out of my head. So I'm not going to say, like, if you can't bring yourself to vote for Biden, I understand. I would say if you live in a swing state, or if you live in a Democratic state that you think is going to be safe, you should vote for Biden. I live in Kansas and we are increasingly fascist here, and it does not matter for me. So, but like this kind of stuff, I guess it, like, you know, I just don't want the conversation to end there. I don't want the conversation about this to end at voting. You should also be doing things like considering running for office yourself, or volunteering for a campaign, or, you know, donating to a campaign. You can volunteer to phone bank. You can volunteer to be one of their little text people who sends out a text to a bunch of folks. But like, yeah, if you live in a purple state, if you live in a state that ever has gone blue, like, I think that you should vote blue. I live in Kansas. It has never gone blue. There is never a chance that this state, it's so heavily gerrymandered. So like, whatever. But like, yeah, I don't want the conversation to end there. I think that you need to think further ahead than just voting in this election. You know, what are you going to do to help make sure that people get access to this? If you live in a state where these medications are legal, maybe it is your ethical duty to make sure that people who are in states who cannot get this medication, like if you cannot get Plan B in like Tennessee or something, I don't know what the actual laws are. If you live in like Illinois, where you can get a hold of Plan B over the counter, maybe making it available to people who live in states where they cannot get a hold of it, like maybe that's something that you should consider doing. Or providing a place for a person to go if they need to get an abortion, if they need to cross state lines, you know, like we need to think beyond just the vote, because that's what this is. This Right to Contraception Act, this bill, the intention of it was for this to be a campaign advertisement. It's another thing for them to fundraise on, you know? And like, I think if you're gonna support candidates, you should support candidates at the local level. Because that's one thing, you know, I live in Kansas and it sucks balls, but I can vote locally and get more Democrats in my local area, potentially. It's like the smaller the area is, the harder it is to gerrymander, and tons of people are going and signing up to run for office. Like a huge number of Democratic candidates are pitching in for this exact reason, because we need more Democrats. We need more leftists, really. Like, Democrats are like functionally centrist, but we need more people left-leaning running as Democrats in order to pull the party back left. And we still need to be thinking beyond that framework. Because what are you going to do if you find yourself pregnant, or your partner is pregnant and you can't access, or, you know, whatever, you have an accident and you can't access Plan B, or if your partner is pregnant or you're pregnant and you can't access abortion, you know, like what realistically are you going to do? And what are you going to do to prevent that from happening? What do you suggest if you're from a state that is usually blue, but from an area within that state that is very red? So definitely still vote for Biden. I'm talking about like the presidential election. When I'm saying, you know, whatever about where you live, no matter where you live, you should vote. And you should vote blue, like down ballot, right? If it's the presidential thing specifically, if you live in a blue state or if you live in a purple state, if your state has ever gone blue for the president, your vote still matters there. Because when we're talking about, you know, the presidential vote per each state, they take all those votes together and then they decide population-wise to send the electoral representatives, right? So yeah, if you live in a red area within a blue state, first of all, you might try to endorse candidates and volunteer for candidates in your local area to try to turn that area more blue. But within the whole state, you have an obligation, in my opinion, for the purposes of harm reduction, to stop Project 2025, which we're going to discuss in a later video, you know, the attacks on voting rights. You know, there is a very clear attempt. There's a very clear attempt, and they've outlined it very clearly. Project2025.org, Presidential Transition Project. You can go in there and see all of the things that they have planned. You know, they want to reduce access to women's healthcare. They want to reduce access to trans healthcare. They want to, you know, take away people's ability to vote. If Trump wins, they don't want him to ever leave office, you know? Oh, and yeah, we haven't even talked about like the things that you need to do to protect yourself, like getting a passport and whatever, you know. But so long as, you know, you're living in the state that you're living, work on not only the election stuff, but also what are you going to do after the election? Voting is only one day. What are you going to do before that day? And what are you going to do after that day? It's only one day. You have 364 other days of the year to be working on mutual aid, to be helping people who need access to this care. You could potentially donate to someplace, an organization like Plan C, which helps people get abortion pills by mail, even in places where they can't get those things legally. Like, I can't wholeheartedly endorse Biden. I can say in most other situations, a Democrat is going to be better. Like, I think Biden is going to be better than Trump, as long as, you know, I mean, I think if Trump loses, then there's going to be like a full-blown insurrection, more than there was on January 6th. But if we assume that there's not really a peaceful transition of power because it's just Biden remaining in power. If we assume that there's a peaceful outcome of the election where Biden wins, then, you know, Biden is more likely to listen to us on trans rights and gay rights and women's rights. And, you know, yes, there's the whole bombing children in Gaza thing happening right now, and that's horrible. And I would feel disgusted having to vote for Biden. So I completely understand the resistance to that. And at the same time, if we don't want V for Vendetta style gay people getting dragged out of their homes and imprisoned, you know, we still need to work on at least making sure that things do not get dramatically worse in our own country. We cannot make things better in Gaza if things get dramatically worse in our country. Yeah, I guess I'm glad that on the same day that I found out about this act, it got slapped down, because then at least we have a comprehensive and not just like, I wonder if this is going to pass. You know, answer, no. Not in the Senate, not right now. Yeah, of course. Important to note that Trump would have stopped supporting Ukraine and would have just funded Israel more. Yeah, we'll buy ourselves some time voting for Biden. It might not be that much. Voting is not a reflection of personal morals, says Mama. It is a strategic move. Agreed. If you're a leftist who is not voting for Biden, write in uncommitted. Let him know why he lost. Yeah. It's not, that way your vote is counted. Yeah, you're picking your enemy with this vote. If you're going to take a bus and one bus lands you 10 miles away from your destination and the other bus lands you 5 miles away from your destination, and there is no closer bus, then you would rather walk 5 miles than only 10, or than 10, right? Like, as long as we get slightly closer to the destination, we're going to be moderately better off, right? As a trans person, as a person who needs birth control, like, it's not, like, it is a matter of life or death here in this country now, the outcome of this election. So I think I'll wrap it there, because I'm done hammering on about, oh, you need to vote. Like, yeah, obviously you need to vote. And what are you going to do with the other 364 days of the year? Hopefully something good. Happy Pride to my patrons, especially Tiago Nascimento, Marsh Rolvog, Jack, Amanda B., Wellington Marcus, Michelle Frateroli, Michelle Winter, Danielle McDonald, Jamie Jam, DZXN, Nova, Sojo, Athiet, Spooky Heather Sylvia, Desi Quiche, Pasnell Infinity, Celeste, Kevin Young, Elizabeth Bartell, Liam Hodgson, Ella V. Nobody, Mr. Atheist, and Suzanne Maynard.